Welcome to another D&D Stories. I am your host, TheWriter, and this is the show where I sit here in front of a shelf full of gaming stuff and tell you all my D&D stories. Now today we have come at last to the finale of the Iron Heart of Innis campaign, part 6 of 6. So, how does the story end? How do our heroes fare? You know, what becomes of the Iron Heart of Innis itself, etc., etc.? Well, minimize me, pull up something fun to do, start your chores, your dishes, whatever it happens to be, and enjoy the end of this great narrative. So, if you recall, last time, Eden was compelled to place the Iron Heart of Innis into the body of this reconstructed blank man, and Tom Lim, who we thought was dead, was actually in this workshop, chained to the floor by whatever powers that be, working on it just obsessively. And I wondered exactly who was feeding him and where he was pooping, etc., etc., but that doesn't matter, apparently. So, we get him unchained, and as I said, Eden was compelled by some greater magic in the area to place the Iron Heart of Innis in the body of this reconstructed blank man, one of the ancient servant robots of the past who would, cook, clean, sing, etc., etc., and for whom our ranger, Neith, had visions of what turned out to be the future, not the past, that the blank men would rise up and cause some cataclysmic great war amongst the humanoid races versus the blank men, where everyone would have to unite in order to face them, because apparently, given the chance to grow and prosper unto themselves, the blank men decided that they were done taking orders and were going to take everybody else out. So it will cause a massive conflict in the future. So we start off, and the heart sort of just melts into this like fleshy, not really, I'm getting like a magnesium / mercury feeling from the way our DM described it. He said that it basically melted and grew and changed, and everywhere it covered all the gears, it united all the plates, it kind of became the fleshy part of what would have been a man in armor, but instead became the metallic organic material that held all the pieces together so that this blank man could come to life once more. And he was like in his powering up phase for a while he was all the pieces were coming together, all the everything. So I'm getting super excited thinking that this massive boss battle's about to start, and we're in like a workshop. So there's plenty of sharp tools, plenty of like things hanging on pegs, plenty of tables and paper strewn around. It's an interesting place to host a boss battle because anything and everything could probably be used as a weapon. And this robot man is laying on a slab in the middle of it all. So I'm sitting there wondering what our strategy is going to be. And then I quickly realize, oh hey, I forgot I'm not the combat character, so it's not really going to matter for me. I'm the brains of this operation. I don't know how to swing a sword around. But while all this is going on, we decide to take a recap of what's going on. Why Eden was traveling alone at night to reach this cathedral, was to see this old place that she had seen as a child. Why John, our not cleric, decided to stay in this cathedral basically like a hobo, as he was tired of killing people in the name of his church. I think the eventuality of John the not cleric was that he was a warrior hired for the church, so fighter. He was a warrior working for the church, but he'd spilled so much blood in, whatever crusades, whatever holy wars there happened to be. And his reward, they named him a cleric and they blessed him, and he's probably got like one level of actual cleric in him. But, the blood ran too thick, the gore foamed up about his waist, and he decided that, it was kind of like the Dark Ages with the Catholic Church. They were just killing everyone. Anybody that said anything bad, anything like that. So John the not cleric got sick of being the sword of the Lord of the church and decided to basically disappear. And he ended up at this ancient cathedral, basically to hide out. He was just sick and tired of swinging his sword at anybody that didn't agree with his church, and swinging his sword at anybody that the church told him to. So he was haggard and worn out. So that great mystery is finally solved, that he's probably all levels fighter and one level of cleric. So well done, Tim. You drug that out through 5 or 6 sessions before it finally came to light. So well done. And that is a compliment unto a player, is if you can play for a whole campaign and nobody knows exactly what your class is based on your role play, that's phenomenal. That's a higher tier of skill than I would ever equate to myself or anybody from the Gamers Guild or anybody from the Quill and Blade downtown where I live, or anything like that. So Tim, well done. Well done. If you can play a whole campaign and nobody knows even what freaking class you are, and somebody corrected me earlier that all of the martial classes can get extra attacks. So I assumed he was a fighter for a long time, but that's not a fighter-specific thing, which shows you how limited my knowledge of 5th edition is. Not that I care, because I'm really not a 5th edition kind of guy. I will stick with my 3.5 and my Pathfinder, thank you. Anyway, and then we went over what Neith's thing was, that he had committed murder and then had wandered and then found a new master who was then killed by a giant. So Neith had seen far too much death, far too much people close to him turning on him, or people close to him getting killed for him so that he could live on and move on. That he was just this tragic, morose character that couldn't attach himself too thoroughly to anybody because the people around him kept getting killed. So, and the joke kind of ran thick that, he fetched the stick, he's our party dog, he started referring to himself as the party dog, so that was kind of funny. Or that was kind of cute that he's, we fetched the stick, or he brought this down, or he did something X, Y, and Z that, good boy. We pat the top of his head. And then with Cryptbreaker James, who really has I didn't have much of an answer. I think everybody else put a lot more thought into their backgrounds than I did, because very honestly, I've never come across a DM that made use of anybody's backstory, so I didn't put a lot of thought into it. The character concept for Cryptbreaker James was just that he would break into your family crypt and retrieve its valuables as long as he had the owner of that crypt's permission. So he was a dungeoneer rogue working within the confines of the law, because he would have written permission for wherever he was going. And the cathedral at the very beginning was kind of the exception, because it was a crumbling ruin. Nobody owned it. But because of Tom Lem's letter and the quote-unquote confirmation that he was dead, this location was free and up for grabs. The treasures within will turn to dust, eaten away by time. We should retrieve them. Nobody's going to come looking for them, and if I don't go grab them, then they'll just go to waste. So that was kind of the logic there. I wasn't really breaking into anything so much as salvaging what was still there and making a profit off of it, which I guess is still tomb robbing, but not really, because the tomb that we went into had already been robbed. So whatever circumstance you want to call that. Cryptbreaker James likes to think of himself as a good guy, even though he's straight levels of rogue. I'm not that kind of rogue. Can you tumble? No. Can you open locks? No. Can you convince this person of stuff? No. What kind of rogue are you? Lawful neutral. Or what was it? I've got the paper here. And at the end of this, you guys, if you really want to know Cryptbreaker James's stuff, I'll scan this in and you can look at it. What did I have points in? Arcana, I guess, for when I found stuff. Athletics, from digging graves. History, investigation, perception. Oh, he does have persuasion. Okay, I didn't get to persuade anybody. And religion. So, all the things that you would need to build and get through tombs. But, yeah, we spent a good portion of the session explaining everybody's origin for, the more specific reasons why we were all suddenly gathering at this crumbling cathedral as though by fate. So that was something interesting to start the session with, to solidify, the kind of family gathering that we'd become. The coward, the haggard warrior, the family dog, and the the traveling paladin. And we go through that for a while, and then we finally come back to the present, where Tom Lim turns out to be not real. The real Tom Lim, when... I'm trying to think of how to word this. Tom Lim that was chained to the floor that we unchained turned out to be a rakshasa. I think I'm pronouncing that right. A tiger person. And when he found out what Cryptbreaker James was after via correspondence with the real Tom Lim, I'm guessing, he decided to kill Tom Lim and take his place, and then chain himself to the floor, I guess to provide a more convincing story. But the real Tom Lim apparently was replaced at one point, and the rakshasa, whatever, somebody's gonna skin me alive for pronouncing this wrong. The tiger people, this guy puts on an illusionary, glamour spell, the 5 sense spell, where it even feels real. It's high-level magic. Holy crap. Most illusions are sight, sound, smell, light, colors. But something that feels real is much higher level magic. So props to him for knowing something so thorough in terms of self-enchantment. This rakshasa takes Tom Lim's place, chains himself to the floor, and waits for us down there. And when the blank man starts sitting up, he's got the Frankenstein, thank you. And the heart goes on and becomes veins and flesh and other things that are all still made of metal, but you know what I'm talking about, like quicksilver almost. It's solid, but it's fleshy and metallic. I don't know what I'm trying to describe, but Tom Lim suddenly, turns coat on us and turns and swipes at one of us with claws that he doesn't have. And we see this shimmer, and immediately we know it's some form of illusion. So a battle suddenly starts while, I called it the Megazord sequence because if you've ever seen Power Rangers and the Power Rangers put all their machines together to form the Megazord, they always go through that 45-second sequence where they're all coming together and switching around and transforming and coming upright to form the giant robot. And during this 45-second, montage, the monsters don't do anything. If the Megazord got attacked while it was trying to come together, they'd get fucked up every single time. The blank man was going through his Megazord sequence, getting all the flesh and metallic veins and stuff going to fully activate himself. But we had a rakshasa, whatever, to deal with while that was happening. So I think, we have a time limit to either A, kill the rakshasa, and I'm just going to call him Tom Lim because I'm probably saying the wrong thing. To kill Tom Lim's replacement before the blank man gets up, so we don't have to fight both of them at the same time, or to make like a surgical strike and stop him before he's fully ready. So John the Not Cleric and Neith and Eden, all three go after not Tom Lim, which left me to go after the blank man, who was kind of like sitting on the slab, not really doing anything. I thought he was still like powering up or processing or whatever. I was like, maybe I can take him out while he's still helpless, because he's obviously a giant walking suit of armor. He's a big robot man, so if he gets up, he's gonna fucking crush my head. So I should jump on him, while he's still vulnerable. So I pull my dagger, and I basically jump and like straddle him across his lap, thinking that I can just Kali Ma, and grab his heart and pull it out before it becomes fully integrated. But it was far too late for that, and I didn't hit him hard enough. Like, I was expecting something a little less firm than the Quicksilver, plate mail that I was attacking, and it didn't quite get through. So the illusion of Tom Lim disappears, revealing this Tiger Man, and he's like swiping with his claws back and forth. But a 3-on-1 fight, he's gonna lose. In fact, James, just as an aside, I think your only weakness as a DM might be balancing encounters, just because most of the encounters we kind of trounced everything. So, just as an aside, if you're studying or becoming a better DM, and I know it sounds like a jerk me saying that, but we might want to look into balancing encounters a little bit better, because we kind of crushed everything in our way. But needless to say, 3-on-1, Tom Lim does not last very long, and he tries to retreat via a portal, but then he gets hit right as he's trying to jump through that portal, so the magic fails right as he's going through it, and it snaps shut right as he dies, and it cuts him in half. So from the stomach down is just a blast of gore, and his upper half, wherever that portal went, is elsewhere. So he's dead, and meanwhile, I'm fighting the blank man, or at least trying to. Tom Lim can command him with single word commands. I'm guessing either with his will or with magic or whatever it happens to be, if he knows all the ancient procedures and intricacies of commanding ancient robotic, they're not Warforged, but they're something similar, I think. They can be commanded by one whose will is strong enough. This blank man stands up, and I was sitting in his lap just trying to stab him in the neck and trying to cut his chest open to get the heart back, but he stands up and kind of deposits me at his feet, and Tom Lim goes, "Kill him," or just kill, fight, whatever, and he lifts up this giant fucking robot foot, and I was like, oh god, here goes my ribcage, and he fucking stomps me for 14 damage. I was like, ugh. And I think I rolled, what was it? I had to roll to see if it was he breaks your arm, he breaks your leg, or he breaks a couple of ribs or something. If I had lost an arm, that would have fucking sucked. Thus far we've been relatively unscathed, but right here at the end to lose a limb would have really sucked. But thankfully he just kind of, he broke a couple of the bottom ribs, which made me worry about my kidneys and intestines. But he received another command, and Cryptbreaker James kind of gets up as best he can with broken fucking ribs and hops up onto his back. And I was like, what could I possibly do to this giant robot man? I'm not even a combat character. I'm like, I cover his eyes with my hands, and I just like, I'm on his back like a cape, and just like do this so he can't see. I don't know if blank men can only see out of like their face plates. For all I know, he's got an eye in the middle of his chest, and I don't even see it. Like, if he's a robot, does he have like sensors all over him? Can he see in all directions? I don't know. So I cover his eyes with my hands and hang on for dear life. And, you know, he's kind of big and clunky, so he can't quite work his elbows and his shoulders to reach behind himself and grab me. So I'm glad he can't do that, because if he like got like the scruff of my neck, he probably could have just pitched me across the room, but thank God he didn't. So while my party is dealing with not Tom Lim, I've got my hands over this giant robot's eyes, and it's stumbling around trying to fucking get me off. And finally, when, you know, not Tom Lim is shorn in half by his own portal, the party turns to the blank man. And I think that, you know, this is it. This is going to be the big epic boss fight. But as soon as not Tom Lim is dead, the blank man comes to a stop, because there's nobody commanding him. There's not unto this party someone whose will is strong enough to directly command him like this rakshasa was. So he comes to a halt, and he has what comes across as basic AI. He can talk, make declarative statements, ask questions, etc., etc. And I felt kind of robbed at this point, but I kind of understand. The fight basically ended right there with not Tom Lim's death, because the blank man came to a stop, and, you know, we could have gone and just like chopped him up, or at least tried to, because I get the feeling he was probably, you know, either Cenobite or Adamantium Golem, some serious stats to stomp on my face and take more than half my health in one shot. He was probably built somehow. Whatever stat block was behind this beast was probably a bit more potent than the hags and the bone nagas we've been facing thus far. So I was ready for a fight, but it didn't happen. We come to find out that this particular blank man was servant to a king, an evil king, who was called, not the disembodied king, it was not the amputated king. His description was unto the fact that he was missing limbs, and I know James and Tim are going to hate me for this, but I've forgotten his name. A character we've never heard of before and has nothing to do with this campaign, but one who incited a war using blank men in the past. And this particular blank man was his, like, general slash advisor slash tactician, we find out. And so thusly was he guardian of this place and watching over the library of knowledge, and had a special larger body for himself that we had not seen before, etc., etc. We find out he's kind of feeling guilty, sort of, but Cryptbreaker James is not buying this. He's a giant robot man who's, you know, easily controlled by the minds of others. He's programmed to look real, or he's programmed to act like a person. Doesn't mean he is a person. He's still, you know, zeros and ones. He's still arcane symbols. Cryptbreaker James is having none of his bullshit. But the other three party members, Eden, who has heard about the blank men in the same breath that you would talk about Santa Claus, as fairy tales, as something that's far out on the islands, on the coast. The great myths of old, the blank men, who could sing, who could dance, who could do construction work, menial labors, etc. The great servants of the past. She's of course sympathetic to this guy who regrets what he's done, whose mind can be wrested from him at any given point Does he deserve redemption? Does he deserve to die for what he's done? Can he die? Is he alive to begin with? That philosophical debate took over the session, and I was like, oh God, really? We came all this way, and there's a giant robot man. We're not going to fight him. And I know that comes across as really shallow. Tim, James, Mike, Cassandra. I know that comes across as really shallow of me. Not all D&D games end with super epic boss fights, but when you have an object like the Iron Heart of Innis, or a great golden key, or Super Mario and the 1,000-Year Door, and you build up and you build up and you build up this key object and what it's going to do, whether it's a key or a heart or a sword that's missing a gem, that when you put the gem in, it does something cool. When you sell a mystery that spans a campaign, you expect a massive, oh my God, yay, payoff. And maybe it's just unto my own style of gaming. I expected a boss fight, and what I got instead was a philosophical debate of, it's a robot, is it alive? Can we consider it guilty for doing all these horrible things in the past? Does he actually feel guilty? Is oblivion better than letting him run around loose, etc., etc.? And we argued this back and forth. So, Eden, our paladin, obviously was, hey, let's take him out into the world. He can carve a new life for himself and stuff like that. And Neith is much the same, who has killed before and has had people sacrifice themselves for him, is of course also sympathetic. James, or not James, John, our not cleric, is kind of on the fence, but is ready to lop his head off and just call it done so that we don't have to worry about it, because the idea that there is a war coming in the far future dotes on us all, but no fate but what we make, etc., etc. This is the first Terminator. This is the first blank man to rise up since ancient times, and he at least sounds genuinely sorry for what's happened in the past. Cryptbreaker James, on the other hand, being the analytical one and having, through Neith, seen the future and stuff like this, just is completely against it. And he knows, I know there's nothing I can do about it, because we have, Eden, who looks up to this blank man as a fairy tale figure, Neith, who is in the same position as this blank man, John's sitting on the fence, and then Cryptbreaker is completely against letting him go anywhere, because he can be controlled by others, and he can do great damage, as he learned by taking a foot to the chest, and it's ancient magical technology. Does he have a mind of his own, or is he just programmed to look like he does? Making declarative statements and asking questions and stuff is great AI, outside this setting. But are you willing to wash your hands of it? Are you willing to let something like that roam free? Cryptbreaker James was like, no. But unfortunately, he was outdone by a 2.5 vote to a 1.5 vote. So we ended out the campaign by deciding that this blank man would go out into the world and carve his own destiny. Whether Neith and Eden were looking after him, Cryptbreaker James was like, no, I'm washing my hands of this. We'll split the treasure, and I'll be on my merry way, but no robot men for me. And John, no doubt, was wanting some peace and quiet as well. So we ended out solving, the Iron Heart of Innis went into this blank man, and now we decided to name him Redemption, because his first name was Conquest, because he was the general, he was the tactician to this evil king. and we renamed him Redemption, Red for short. So Red, the blank man, is now going out into the world to carve his own destiny, to be his own man, etc., etc. I hope he doesn't run into anybody that can just take control of him and make him do evil shit, burninate the countryside. But Cryptbreaker James is, he's not that kind of rogue. He's not a combat character, and he's not going to overpower his 3 companions to, take out this robot before it leaves. So it's like, well, good luck, you guys. And the party, I'm guessing, went their separate ways from there. So where Red went with Neith and Eden, and I'm not sure which way John went, and it kind of faded to black on the idea that we were going to let Red go, and he was going to do his own thing, or decide what it means to live life, especially when you're looking for redemption for having done evil things or bad things in the past. So he's very much a kindred spirit with Neith, who has killed people before, and has Eden's adoration for being out of these fairy tales that she heard as a girl. But Cryptbreaker James is like, nope. Keep in touch, bye. So, again, not the ending I would have gone for. I would have started pulling swords once the rakshasa was dead. But there's more than one way to end a campaign, and that was how this one ended. So that was the conclusion of the Iron Heart of Innis campaign. And maybe someday in the far, far future, these 4 characters will get together again, and we'll see what happened to Red. And, the setting, Dragon Grin, is a product of the guys over at Tabletop Terrors, Tim and James. So other games, no doubt, have and will take place in this same setting, but that was the particular chapter that I was a part of. So that, I guess, is the end of that particular D&D story, and I think I'm going to end the season here as well. I'm going to be acquiring some new assets to up the production of the show just a little bit. So, you know how I like my intros and stuff like that, and I've been harping on Mike to get my music done, but it's been a while, so I need to check in on him, etc., etc. And I have an animator working for me, and I'm looking for somebody who does pixel art animations. You'd be surprised how hard it is to find somebody who does good pixel art animation, who is willing to actually sit and work for you for money and not, like I've sent messages to dozens and nobody replies. So it's really hard to get a hold of somebody with any talent. Damn it. Anyway, that is all I have to say about that. So until next time, the weapons of man are at your side.
Gather together, taking your stride. The number of who's first I was slain, shuffle of foes and even our king. No, their demise. Now that we know that this is the end of times. The earth you see before you die. Arrows and bolts, they blacken the sky. My shield is split, my sword is alive. Lots of good lost, but the war isn't done.
Let me out! You can come out when you're done being evil.